the idea of communal property ownership just falls flat on its face. That's all that matters.
Episode 22, Exploding Star Podcast. Welcome back. What have you been up to, man? How was your week?
Started putting the roof on my new place. Pretty cool.
I haven't seen any pictures. Do you have pictures on your Facebook?
No, I don't keep up with Facebook. Yeah, I got some. I can send some. Maybe we can put them up on the next one. But yeah, it's crazy. Like I went out there the other night. It's a little bit away from where I'm at right now. I walked out there to get something, and in the dark, it looks like a house standing there, and not just a bunch of piles of wood and random crap. Like
Did you use the logs that you can purchase for the log cabins, like the pre-cut?
No,
Okay.
I cut all the logs myself off of this property, hauled them up on my back, got a sawmill, milled them out to where they were flat on each side, and put them together.
Damn, that's a log cabin right there.
Every log here I cut off of this property.
Well, you wanted to start off the show this week with this Louder with Crowder video. I don't know. It's not the fact that he says this stuff. It's the fact of how many views it gets that really bothers me. 600,000 views on this video from the second 4 years ago. You want to set this up or just get into it here?
Yeah, okay. So everybody, this is Labor Day. This is something that's been a main talking point of this podcast kind of since the get-go. We started somewhere around Mayday, didn't we?
Yeah.
With this whole thing?
Something like that.
I remember doing the Mayday. So anyways, this is kind of like the second half of the labor movement holidays of the year, at least in the U.S. And interesting history behind it. And I thought we'd just start off with a little shout out and a little history lesson about what Labor Day is all about. And who better, Stephen Crowder, to teach us about.
Well, if I remember
Labor
correctly,
Day.
I could be wrong on this, but I think that they tried to cover up May Day by creating Labor Day for employees to go back to work on this day, right? Was that the idea?
I was reading about it a little bit earlier. I think it just had different roots, and there's a really interesting whole discussion in the different labor movements about like when the day should be. It's a complex history, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, let's let Stephen Crowder tell us all about it.
Yeah, he's going to educate us.
His silk robe and his machine gun.
Oh, hello there.
I want to do a video like that so bad.
Opinion for a moment, if I
nude?
may.
With the
Labor
pipe?
Day, national holiday,
exactly
is
like
a scam.
Oh, hello.
No, I'm not going to try and steal your get-out-of-work-free day. You can rest easy enjoying your barbecue and beer while your boss ultimately picks up the slack to keep your pay stubs coming in, all because some arbitrary holiday was marketed to celebrate the working class and you now feel entitled to it. It's a poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every...
Well, he doesn't make any illusions as to whose side he's on here, does he? In the class war at all, does he?
He lays it right on the table.
He's not hiding his allegiance.
No.
First Monday of September. Seeing as I'm apparently the only one who knows that around here, allow me to explain my opinion. Now, Labor Day was created at a rare moment in history where unions actually served a purpose beyond bitching about six-figure benefit packages and determining which other members' tires they'd slash because of bullshit card check voting. See, that's because the Industrial Revolution, unlike the Agricultural Revolution which preceded it, resulted in an economy with a select few people at the top and then a manual labor class in the factories who were working very long hours just to squeak out a living, sometimes 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, notice that was an actual moment in history, unlike the fabricated one today from entitled leftist socialists who bitch that the American dream is more out of reach than ever.
What is he talking about here? Labor Day was not made by left-wing socialists. Labor Day was made by the capitalist class to cover up for the real holiday, which was Mayday, the Haymarket massacre. What is he even talking about? I don't understand what's his point here. Does he go into a point or anything?
Hey, no, this is basically it.
This is just grifting. He's got the American flag, all these whiskey bottles. Like he's just
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't watch his show, but is this what it always looks like?
I don't either. I was literally just browsing through Reddit, and somebody, because it's Labor Day, they put this up on some Reddit, and I was
It's like
"Oh,
he's
I'll check it
memeing
out."
himself almost.
Yeah. But let's see. I'll just look it up. Labor Day is a federal holiday in the United States. Beginning in the late 19th century, as the trade union and labor movements grew, trade unionists proposed that a day be set aside to celebrate labor. So apparently, a Labor Day was promoted by a couple different unions, but most of them were pushing for it on May Day. In
But
honor
due
of
to the Cold War and
Haymarket
McCarthyism, they tried to cover all that shit up.
But yeah. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a complex history about how it came about. Maybe it was pushed by capitalists to kind of the bourgeois to take away from the.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's a day off of work, so
Mayday.
Steven Crowder is going to complain about it.
Yeah, he's going to complain about it, and he goes in to explain about, this is not. They're not talking about you. This is only for manual laborers, and he differentiates the working class from the manual labor people, and
Oh, he tries to put the middle class against the working class. Is that?
Yeah,
is that his thing?
that's basically it.
Could you imagine what it's like to work for this guy? You know he has employees, right? He's got a pretty big operation.
Oh yeah,
well-funded operation.
Yeah.
I should point out. I'm sure he's got employees. Imagine his being one of his employees, dude.
I have heard that he. I'm sure he's definitely a right winger, but I've heard that most of this is just a show that he puts on.
Yeah, it seems like it.
I tell you what, though,
That's so much worse, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just a complete lack of principles.
Right.
But having said that, I hate what he says, but damn it, he is funny sometimes, and that's what bothers me the most. Is some of the stuff actually is funny. Particularly his little video about Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian. That's the best one, hands down. Has Anna keep shoveling Cenk bacon grease.
I didn't get that one, but I don't know. The people who watch this, though, don't laugh at it the way you laugh at it, dude.
No, definitely not. No, there's people that watch that like
yeah,
kids, we're going to learn about Labor Day.
Yeah,
a bunch of
workers.
A bunch of people that just got home from their factory jobs to sit down with their kids who are going to be manual laborers too. Come on, let's talk about how.
Imagine this bum calling you lazy, and you've been working in the fucking steel mill for your whole life, dude. Imagine my Uncle John being called lazy by this soft ass punk, dude. Give me a break.
I bet he has never. I guarantee he has no calluses on his hands. I guarantee if you handed him a wrench, he wouldn't know how to.
But the biggest news this week, I think, was the Chinese crackdown on gaming. This came out of nowhere. This was very surprising. Let me play a little bit of this.
3 hours a week. That's the absolute maximum amount of time under 18s can spend on video games in China, after the country introduced a drastic new limit to combat gaming addiction.
3 hours a week. So that's 1 hour on Friday, 1 hour on Saturday, 1 hour on Sunday, and then an additional 1 hour on holidays. And this is only for under 18s.
Yeah.
And this is kind of interesting to me because it seems like they're basing this on research somewhat, but they're definitely jumping the gun on the research, I would say. But it's just interesting. I don't know, man. What do you think about this?
I mean, as a general rule, I think that's something that people should probably institute in their households. Obviously, you don't want the government doing it, but I could also see an argument. China's, they're concerned about the productivity of their nation as a whole. And I don't know what research that they're pointing to to make these decisions. But if kids and people in general are spending an inordinate amount of time, which we know that they are, wrapped into the worlds of these online games, and it's starting to affect their education, their
Productivity.
prospects at productivity,
That's what they care
their
about.
prospects at, yeah, I mean that's how they're looking at it. But
well, the
I mean,
research I went through the research. It's not super. There's no super concrete research. This gaming addiction was added to the DSM, but it was added sort of as an area of interest in further research. There's not any solid, really numbers. They just basically pointed it out, labeled it, and the second thing I wanted to point out about this is the fact that the Chinese government isn't setting out to enforce this themselves on individuals. They're going to enforce this on companies. They want companies to put in their games ways for parents to be able to limit the gaming of their kids, and and even in the press release when they passed this law, they pointed out the fact that the kids could still get on their parents' accounts if the parents wanted them to exceed that 1 hour time limit. But it seems like maybe this is just a way to empower parents to control their psycho kids that are addicted to games. Have you ever been addicted to a game? I know I have.
I've been hooked on games. I go on like kicks where I'm like hooked on a game for a month, and then I just kind of like naturally just fall off of it. But I've seen, I know kids that I would say, as someone that has dealt with actual addiction, what it looks like to me is an addiction, where it's not like
Sure.
a kick that they're on for a couple weeks or a month. It's just a nonstop month after month after month, just absorbed in this game. And if you take it away from them, they're just
I
withdrawal
swear,
symptoms are irritable and what the heck?
when I had my daughter, it was a situation where it was either I'm going to lose my daughter or I'm going to have to stop playing this stupid game, because I was addicted to Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO. It's sort of like World of Warcraft. It's pretty similar to that, but I got into it really heavy for like a year. It was a serious part of my life, dude.
How long?
I played for a good year, but I was into raiding and all that type of stuff, and it's really fun and rewarding, but it's also like it's just a huge waste of time, really.
Yeah.
You're not producing anything. You're using a lot of time and exerting a lot of energy, and you practice a lot, and then you get good at it, but then, that doesn't translate to anything in the real world.
Yeah.
You just have a really cool character in a fucking game.
Did you ever get to the point? I've had this happen to myself, where I get really into a game. I get the new Skyrim game, and I'm like playing it really hard. And I put a couple weeks of really hard work in, and I start like building my money up really good. And I wake up in the morning feeling better because I'm like, my financial situation, like, it's like this weird, for just a half a second, I'm like, yeah, I got money. And then I'm like, oh no, the money I have's in the game.
I'm the shit in this
I'm
game.
broke. I'm broke as shit. I called into work last Tuesday because I didn't want to,
I basically 100%ed Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I played the heck out of that one.
Yeah, they're great games, but I never got into the MMO games. I know those are the ones that people really get addicted to, and I just never happened to really pick them up, honestly. So
I thought it was interesting. I don't know. There's certain sectors of the United States that maybe would get on board for this, but not many. Most people would be pretty dead set against this in the United States. Maybe to the detriment of society. Who knows?
Even
it's like limiting screen time would be a better idea, wouldn't it?
Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. As a parent, you get access to their device, and you put parental controls on there. Hey, this is how much screen time you can use. It's available for texting and calling, but
isn't this like the pot thing? Like if you try to keep it from them, they just want it more.
Probably, yeah. But you got to do what you got to do as a parent. I hate the idea of having the government come in as your nanny because you don't want to do good parenting. I think that's in general just a bad idea, bad sentiment. But
I think it takes a village to raise a child. It's
sure.
I look at it in more of a collective way, but it doesn't look like the Chinese government is doing that. It looks like they're cracking down on companies, primarily, and they're trying to empower parents to be able to tell their kids, hey, that's against the law. You need to get off. So they don't have to sit there and fucking argue with them. That's what it seems like. The facial recognition technology they're using is pretty creepy, though, man.
Yeah, if you start getting into all that, then I'm against it. But I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea. When we do that with alcohol companies, tobacco companies, anything that's considered addictive, gambling companies, you have to put a warning on there. And you know, I mean, there's liquor stores around here that if they think you're drunk, they're not going to sell to you. If there's a company and they can somehow through an algorithm recognize that what you're doing is kind of past whatever arbitrary limit we set as being addiction gaming, and they cut you off or limit you or whatever, then yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, parents aren't always going to be there or able or willing or whatever to do.
Some people are just shitty
it does
parents.
take a village. Some people are just shitty parents,
and it's not the kid's fault, you know.
No, it's not. No. I mean, they're kids.
All right, moving right along here. I want to talk about the Gavin Newsom recall because this is, you know, this is an exercise. California is unique in this. I mean, it's not the only state, but they have these recall elections, which are sort of a direct democracy principle, but it kind of gets co-opted by the right constantly in California because every time somebody gets elected, there's a recall on them as soon as shit goes wrong, you know. The New York Times tracks all this viral misinformation, like the coronavirus deniers and stuff, and there are misinformation campaigns spreading around the Gavin Newsom recall election. 2 rumors are going viral ahead of the recall election. And in California, all you need is 51% to get him out of there, and then the next person in line gets the governorship. So if 51% of the population votes we don't want Gavin Newsom, then the crazy right-wing conservative gets in automatically. Seems like maybe they should, I don't know what they should do. I like, in principle, the idea of direct democracy, but the way it's being used here is, I mean, that's how Arnold got in. Arnold got in through a recall.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He didn't serve a full... Here are 2 rumors that were circulating widely online. How they spread and why. State and local officials said they're wrong. Rumor number 1, holes in the ballot envelopes were being used to screen out votes that say yes to a recall. Rumor number 2, a felon stole ballots to help Governor Newsom win the recall election. And these were both BS, and the New York Times reported this, but who knows how widely this will get seen. You know? On August 17th, the police in Torrance, California published a post on Facebook that said the officers had responded to a call about a man who was passed out in his car in a 7-Eleven parking lot. The man had stolen such items as loaded firearm, drugs, and 1,000 pieces of mail, including more than 300 unopened ballots. And it was all made up, of course. It's just more misinformation, more anti-democratic propaganda.
If there's one thing we've learned is that it works. You don't have to cite your sources anymore. You just put it out there. Just put the rumor out there. As ridiculous as it is, there's a certain subset of the population that's going to pick up on it and run with it. That's what they wanted to hear.
I'm of the opinion now that Facebook is a threat to democracy. And I don't know if it's their... Yeah, it's really the way their ads work. Because people like Turning Points USA and these other companies can spend millions of dollars on ads, and the people don't even know that they're ads. I see them on my feed, and I'm like, you can barely tell that's an ad. It's some right-wing propaganda. And all you have to do is pay, a couple dollars and get these freaking propaganda ads spread around Facebook. They're really a threat to democracy at this point, in my opinion. Something needs to be done, man.
Your buddy Sam Harris recently made a post about that, basically saying the same thing, that if the human race brings itself to the brink of destruction in the next 20 years or something, most likely it will be because of social media. I mean, you can just say Facebook users and you kind of know what I'm talking about.
Right. I mean, Facebook is the biggest, problem. So maybe tackle that first. But
I think just in general, as a social issue, people that see it as an issue, people that recognize that it's a problem, just need to stop using it. I kind of do it myself, like, oh, well, it's a good way to try to market products and I make all these excuses, but I'm in a small way, I'm just adding to the problem. I'm another
you're
name
not,
on
though.
there.
You're not adding to the problem
up.
Because you're not buying political ads.
I'm not. But just if enough people dropped off of the platform, eventually, you hit like a snowball effect. This is what happened with MySpace, for example. At a certain point in time, nobody ended MySpace. It's still around. At a certain point in time, there were so few people using it that the people that still wanted to use it didn't see any utility in using it because there was nobody on there anymore.
I made a Facebook post the other day. What do you call it when a major political party is spreading doubt about democratic elections, restricting the ability to vote, threatening and harassing public health officials? I'm not sure if you saw those videos, but there were some public health officials being harassed by these angry mobs at school board meetings, censoring education by whitewashing history. That's anti-CRT propaganda going around right now, rejecting science, monetarily incentivizing citizens to turn one another into the state. That's some Soviet Russia type stuff going on in Texas right now. Blaming immigrants and other outside groups. And the largest cable news show in history, talking openly about white replacement theory. That would be old Tucker Carlson. I mean, this is all the hallmarks of fascism, dude. I don't know what to say.
It is. Yeah. It's an interesting point about that. So I was actually listening to a history. I don't know why. I was actually thinking about this in the context of another topic we're going to talk about. But I was listening to a history podcast about Mussolini and the parallels between Mussolini's, just him as a person, and Trump were just uncanny. The same.
No
like seriously, like just to his mannerisms, his kind of little personal quirks. The over the top talk and over the top bravado, and trying to like with them, it's the Sicilians. They're these poor people from down south of Mexico, or not Mexico, down south of Italy, that were coming up and taking their jobs. There's analogs for all these things.
Mr. President, any thoughts on John McCain, sir?
Right this way. Everyone's moving.
We have to talk about SB 8. Joe Biden put out a press statement. Today, Texas law SB 8 went into effect. Is that a good Joe Biden? I can't tell.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst.
This Texas law blatantly violates Roe v. Wade. Do you have an opinion on this? I'm not sure if you care about this issue, but
my take, most interesting thing to me about this whole situation is once again, I want to thank the Satanists out there. So it's the Texas Church of Satan are the ones that look like they're going to be the ones taking this to the Supreme Court to challenge it on whatever ground, basically just violations of religious freedom. And which I think
is that a legally recognized church in Texas?
It is nationally the Church of Satan. Yeah, I think mostly.
What a meme, dude! That's an old meme.
I think mostly it's just I think mostly it's just a joke. They're not actually Satanists.
Oh, now come on! We've met some people that would take that shit seriously.
No, I definitely have.
Something.
The people that are doing these cases like this, I think they're making a point to stick it to the Christians. When the Christians pass some law that steps over the line, they say, okay, well, we can do the same thing. We're going to push it back the other way. And then the Christians go, oh, no.
It doesn't explicitly forbid abortions. What it does is it empowers anyone in the country to sue anyone else for aiding and abetting an abortion. So, you can sue the taxi driver, you can sue the hospital, you can sue the grandmother, you can sue everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And not you, anybody. So, any right-wing think tank, for example. And if you win the lawsuit, you win an additional $10,000 plus court costs.
Yeah, so this
it's gonna be the Heritage Foundation and shit suing people, basically.
Lyft had also put out a notice to all their drivers that said that it is not illegal to take somebody to get an abortion. This is a right. You're not going to be in trouble. And it seems like people aren't taking this seriously.
Somebody said one of these companies said they would pay for the legal fees. Maybe it was Lyft. I'm not sure.
Maybe it was Lyft. I'm not. Yeah.
Well, the Supreme Court just declined to take up the case, even though it's blatantly unconstitutional, because they're extreme reactionaries at this point, thanks to Trump.
I mean, they're going to have to take it up at some point. Whether it's a Satanist or somebody's going to blatantly violate it, and it's going to end up there. So
Well, it did. They refused to take it up. It was already there. This is a long process it's been going on.
So
they refused to take up the case, and then it went into effect. And they refuse to take it in this shadow docket process they have now, where they don't actually argue cases or have testimony. They just decide in the middle of the night on upcoming legislation whether or not they want to, what decision they're going to make on it, and then they release it at 2 o'clock in the morning so there's no press. It's called the shadow docket process that's been going on. And they've done this a few times here.
That sounds like the best way to handle it.
Oh, yeah. It seems like a democratic institution, doesn't it?
Everything's on the up and up with our shadow docket.
Lifetime appointed people here.
Political appointees at that.
Traditionally, the process of getting an opinion, this is an AP article on this shadow docket stuff I'm reading here, folks. It says, traditionally, the process of getting an opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court takes months, and those rulings are often narrowly tailored. Emergency orders, especially during the court's summer break, revolve around specific issues like individual death penalty cases. But that pattern has changed in recent years, with decisions coming outside of the court's normal procedures. That has been especially true in the past 2 weeks. Since August 24th, that truncated process known as the shadow docket has moved at astronomical speed, producing decisions related to immigration, COVID-19, and restrictions, and, most recently, abortion. The COVID-19 was the throwing everybody out of their house, the eviction moratorium. Remember that one? That was shadow docket, too.
Yeah.
Those three decisions, with the conservative wing of the court and majority, have the potential to affect millions of people in a fraction of the time and outside the normal scrutiny signed opinions can bring. So they don't have to sign an opinion or receive testimony. They just decide. They are the deciders now.
Seems like it. Godspeed, Supreme Court.
God, what a... We've literally been going backwards since the 70s, and it's like the speed of the backward movement is intensifying at this point, in my opinion.
I would love to hear the argument. Obviously, they had to justify doing things like this somehow or another, and I would just like to hear what the justification.
Justified to who? It's the Supreme Court. It's the most powerful freaking people in the country.
They have a reason in their head, whether they believe it or not, but they
started doing it because they don't want public scrutiny. They don't want the scrutiny, so they release it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they don't have to answer press questions. It's ridiculous.
I mean, they're still getting the scrutiny, whether they have to answer the questions or not. You know, they're not answering it anyways. They're having some clerk go out there and read a prepared statement. So
but they don't have to do any work. They don't have to research it. They don't have to listen to testimony. They don't have to ask questions. They don't have to write a big opinion piece on every. They can just decide it and then move on, and they can do it a lot faster. So they can be reactionary at even more quickly of a pace here. Here's a Reuters piece. This mentions what you were talking about. U.S. companies lash out at Texas law change, including abortion ban. There was another law passed in Texas that's pretty interesting, too. This gun law they passed. Here's the companies. Lyft, Match Group, Inc., Bumble. These guys are just getting some free advertising here. Uber and GoDaddy.
Yeah.
Lyft and Uber said they would cover all legal fees for the ride-hail companies' drivers sued under the law that puts in place a near-total ban on abortion.
We won't pay them a fair wage, but we'll get our social brownie points by saying we're going to pay for their legal fees.
Right? They'll lobby against laws that would make their employees actual employees and give them rights, like they did in California.
You're contractors. Don't worry about it.
Where's the rest of the laws? They passed this gun law that allows anyone to carry a concealed firearm without a license. A law allowing people to carry concealed handguns without any permit went into effect in Texas on Wednesday.
Yeah,
that
seems
abortion
really
law and the voting restrictions also are all law in Texas now.
Texas behind the times. Kentucky did that 6 years ago.
What's that? The gun thing?
Yeah, you don't have to have a concealed carry in Kentucky anymore. You know, as long as you're legally able to have a gun, you can just put it in your pocket and walk in wherever.
Well, you have to have a license to have the gun, don't you, in Kentucky?
No.
You have to go through a background check, an FBI background check. You used to. When
you have to have
a
a
pistol,
background
I had to
check
go through the background check thing.
To buy it from a federally licensed firearms dealer.
Right.
I could buy one from you without having to go through that and just walk around with it wherever I wanted. As long as I'm legally permitted to carry it and where I'm taking it, it's they legally allowed concealed carry. There's no issue. So I don't have to have the gun in my name at all. Don't have to go through any government paperwork
interesting.
whatsoever. Yeah.
So anytime anyone gives you any guff, you just whip out your pistol, man.
That's what I do.
That puts an end to the conversation right there.
Yeah.
Now, we all know this is coming, and it's taken a little bit longer than expected, but we're kind of getting there. Warehousing is one of the largest jobs in the country at this point.
Shout out to Scott.
Yeah, it's either warehouse work or service industry. It's, you know, there's not much industry left, really. So these are robots specifically designed to unload trucks, and they are these armed robots. They look pretty functional, man. And here they're showing you what the robot sees. So they pull the rollers to the truck, they set it up, and then they start unloading the boxes onto the rollers like a human would do. Doesn't look like it's quite as fast as a human yet, but
It doesn't have to take a lunch break. I'm sure that. Yeah, that
insurance is a lot cheaper on a robot.
insurance is a lot cheaper.
This is Boston Dynamics. This is their stretch robot.
Yeah, I think the robots. Last time I used to do industrial maintenance, and about 2 years I got into doing the robotics repair. And most of the robots at the company I was working for, they buy them for like 80 grand or something like that. And you know those robots are going to last 10 years. You're looking about $5,000 a year in repairs, and basically it's with benefits. It's like 1 year's wages. It's what you get a robot for.
So
it just
10
makes
times cheaper.
sense. I mean, it's 10 times cheaper to just buy the robot. You know, then you're just kind of paying to keep a couple extra maintenance guys on staff and train them how to do the repairs on them, and it's coming. It's coming. They're difficult to program, and that's why they're not doing more jobs. But
so the software you think is the bottleneck right now?
the software is the programmers.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's holding the technology back, or is it
Yeah,
just capital
the
investment?
the bottleneck is the program.
Right.
Is the people getting in there to program. This is the job I need you to do.
I mean, this is what Jeff Bezos is dreaming about, dude.
Yeah, all the robots that are available now can do that exact same thing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the moving into and out of the truck, I mean, that would be a little difficult to program, but it's coming.
Dude, I worked in a
so close. It's already there,
in a
really.
warehouse before, and you have to work a lot faster than that. You have to bust your fucking ass in the warehouse, dude. They will get on you big time if you don't. 3.4 million. This is 2019 estimate. 3.4 million in the warehousing industry. Average employment age 38. 6% job growth estimated over 10 years. Average salary 35,000. Average male salary 38,000. Average female salary 30,000. Interesting. 29.1 to be specific. That's a lot of people, man.
UBI. We need some sort of UBI.
This is
Gang,
Digit.
gang.
Here's another sort of warehouse-looking robot, Digit. Who made this one? Agility Robotics.
Its surroundings.
It looks like the Boston Dynamics robot, except it doesn't have a head, really.
Yeah.
So it's just showing you what the robot can see here. And this doesn't look like it's really made for the heavy lifting like that robot, but it does the same basic thing, and it shows them in some sort of postal facility here working. And this is a lot more mobile and a lot more functional, really.
Yeah, this
more
is
multitasking than just the stretch robot could do.
This right here is just government farming. Like, they're not going to have. You can get a normal robot to do this exact same job. You just set your room up differently. Have a track over top. You have one of them same single arm robots that comes down and picks the stuff out. They build this stuff like that because it looks cool, and they can get big government contracts to develop the crap that never gets sold to anybody because it's not useful. It's not. You want the simplest thing possible. You don't want to make something overly complex for a job like that.
This is multifunctional. You could do a lot more with this. You could have this thing, walk your dog, and then you could have it, wash the car.
Well, okay.
I mean, you could have it slap the secretary's ass.
Yeah, you don't want to get one of them Me Too charges on you.
You're probably right, though. Next up is the delivery drones from Amazon. Remember this?
I do.
They had promised this in 2013. Amazon has been testing delivery drones since 2013, working on 30-minute delivery. In 2019, the company petitioned the FAA for approval of its plans, and the FAA just approved them. It debuted a brand new electric delivery drone capable of carrying packages under 5 pounds. The drone can fly up to 15 miles, which was surprising to me. 15 miles, that's pretty good. Last year, Alphabet's Wing became the first drone delivery company to receive FAA approval. And this thing has been in the works for a long time. I know the UK, there was a big article in Wired a few months ago where the UK branch of this, the Amazon drones, kind of crumbled in on itself due to mismanagement and other, probably, treating their management like shit. And the high turnover was cited as a main cause there of why the UK thing kind of fell apart. But I mean, packages under 5 pounds, that's not that useful, is it? How much shit do you buy that's not 5 pounds?
I don't know. You buy.
Why are you in such a hurry to get the stuff, man?
I can see something like this being useful for businesses. Hey, we're out of toner right now. We got to get
staples.
We need staples right now, or we're all got this whole business is going under. Get on Amazon, do 30-minute delivery. Sure, 30-minute delivery costs probably hundreds of dollars, but
well, it's kind of like Postmates. They have Postmates already. The guy with the damn e-bike brings you the same.
Yeah, I mean they're courier services. This is what a courier service is for. They're available everywhere. They do the same thing.
Sure.
They'll run pick up your staples.
Well, you have to pay them though, right? UPS is working on one too, apparently. I mean, the problem is, dude, every redneck is gonna order some shit and then just steal the drone, dude. These drones are not cheap, dude. They're like $200, $300, right? These ones are probably more than that.
Oh, those are probably thousands of dollars easily.
Dude, Justin would jack one of these in 2 seconds.
I would just shoot one out of the sky, just because I look.
Pull.
I look at stuff like that. It's obviously they all have cameras on them. Everything's being videotaped constantly.
Oh god.
And it's, to me, this is. I know it's been talked about, but it is such a large invasion of privacy to have the ability for people to have drones just flying over your property.
Oh, you don't. So
all the time.
Because they can do that now, like your neighbors.
Taking pictures of you. Yeah, they can. No, I mean they can if they can do it when I'm not here.
Are you gonna shoot them down? Here, I don't think you're allowed to shoot them down, dude.
I don't care.
There's only a certain distance up that you own, and then above that is like
they gonna stop me from pulling the trigger. Is that law gonna stop me from trying? I take that really serious. Now I got a
dude.
cousin.
They can see you from the sky with the freaking satellites, right?
Watch me. Oh yeah, I know that's already a huge invasion of privacy.
It's one thing when the government can do it. It's another thing when your neighbors doing it.
Yeah, when the neighbors or Amazon. Hey, what if they fly over and they see you grilling out, and all of a sudden your Amazon membership starts like got aprons and kiss the cook and stuff like. Or they fly over.
That's probably in the works.
They see that your car's dirty. They start sending you ads for turtle wax.
Sure, dude. I mean, my whole question is like, you don't want to provide social safety nets, and simultaneously you want to destroy all the jobs. What is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen, dude?
I think we already
you can't put them all in prison. They can't all fit on the streets. I mean, what the hell? What's the plan here? What's the overall plan here?
We are going to find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in nootropics, check out my website. Our line of cutting-edge products is available at our lowest prices of the year. Well, it's not our lowest prices of the year anymore. We have free shipping through the fall. Come on over, check it out, and get free shipping.
ShireHempFarms.com, your #1 source for locally grown CBD products, hemp products, and Delta 8 products. Introducing our new Delta 8 honey. Ooh, this is a 2,000 milligram jar. I hear it is lovely. Also, for a limited time, trying to move some product, trying to get some new stuff in, all Delta 8 1 mil cartridges are now $15. $15. That's almost wholesale pricing, ladies and gentlemen. Come check it out, ShireHempFarms.com. Also, the ESP pod works 20% off of your 75%, whatever. I don't know math, but just check it out. Cool.
Thank you to everyone who is watching and listening to the show. Please subscribe to us on our YouTube channels. Follow us on Reddit. Subscribe to us on Rumble. We are on Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. And please leave your comments below. We will try to respond to them in a timely manner. Thank you very much. And we will get right back into it. Okay. So you had asked, what about me? You know, all this stuff that I made with my labor. I think that's the sort of point I want to touch on this week. If we apply that to, say, you specifically, you know, you've worked in a lot of factories, you've done a lot of manual labor, and in your case, it's probably the fact that you, in fact, own and possess less value than you've created with your labor over your lifetime, just due to labor exploitation. Because, you know, you weren't born with anything. Everything you own, you've made and accumulated over time. And a lot of that was working for capitalists who kept the excess value of that labor and those products. I'm not sure if you understand the basic point. I'm not super eloquent describing this stuff, but
I get what you're saying. That I'll explain it a little bit further. If I'm working at a factory and I'm making something that's worth $100 and I get $20 of that, the person that owns the factory got $80 of the value of the thing that I'm, or let's say collectively.
Let's name a specific example. Let's say pencils.
All right.
Let's say you make a pencil.
Okay.
The wood costs how much, right?
All right. So me and James, we make pencils, and we make boxes of pencils that cost $100. It's
okay.
Me, you, 5 other people. All right. They buy all the materials for the pencils cost $10. Each of us gets $20 for every $100 box. So we're at $50 now. We got $10 in raw materials, and then, you know, you and I are making them, so it's $50. The company that owns the pencil factory, they get $50 from stuff that we did.
Right.
So that's and now of course they did stuff too. They marketed, they sold it, but was the value of their labor that much more than the value of our labor?
As a socialist, I would make the argument that decision, what happens to that value difference, that $50 difference, should be decided democratically by the workers, not by the capitalists who quote unquote own this property, supposedly.
Yeah. And this is where the discussion last week was, what right do we have as just people that work there to have say in how the company goes, and what right do the people that start the company have, being that they were the ones that put forth the money to get the company up and going, took the risk, put forth their capital, and then it changed to, well, where did they get that capital to begin with? And that was the origins of the conversation.
How much of a right do they have to the capital that they possess? You know.
Exactly.
Really
exactly. And so
they bought it from someone else who bought it from someone else who murdered somebody and stole it. I mean, there's no inherent right to property. This is a construct created by Western society, mainly, not just Western society, but
I think most societies have at certain point. I mean, there's a handful that you can point out that didn't have concept of private property as opposed to personal property. So
sure.
I think right here we're talking about land ownership or the wealth that is derived from owning land privately.
Well, typically,
minerals,
like
agriculture.
A lot of the wealth accumulation is a result of exploitation that goes back generations. That's a big part of the reason there's this racial wealth gap, is because of generational wealth transfer, and blacks haven't really been able to partake in that. They were prevented from owning property for decades. I mean, they were property, and then they were prevented from living in successful areas, and it just goes on, obviously. And there's sort of accumulation that occurs intergenerationally based on wealth transfer. You know, you get money from your parents, and you get property was the biggest thing. You know, in early America, property was the biggest thing.
I don't think there's any real alternative to the ability to privately hold property. I think the idea of communal property ownership just falls flat on its face. I would also say,
Are you talking about land at this point, or are you talking,
I'm talking about
the means
yes,
of production?
I'm talking about land.
Okay.
See, it gets so slippery because I think there's a lot of crossovers with the means of production.
Do you think there should be a limit on how much land one person can own?
No, not inherently. No.
Interesting.
I think in practice, yes, we need to have limits, and it's when you start bringing these things up, the scenarios that you're going to point out are always going to be the extremes. And I think that you, I, and pretty much everybody else would agree.
Well, look at BlackRock. Look at BlackRock. They've bought up all the empty houses in the entire country at this point, and they're renting them for more money. I mean, that's a lot of land owned by one capital group.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you,
but
all these extremes are not.
What value are they
not
creating?
Functional.
Because they're making a lot of money. What value are they creating for society?
Yeah, no, they're not creating any value. The people that are renting should have been given low interest loans during a pandemic. Get something going through the government. Get these people to own these pieces of property. But like I said, I'm not talking about the extreme examples on the far end. Everyone can agree is not a correct usage of, or say it.
Well, I wouldn't advocate for abolishing land ownership whatsoever, and most people wouldn't. That's not what we're saying when we talk about private property. What we're talking about when we say private property is exactly the means of production. So the factories, the natural resources primarily is what we're talking about. So mines, for example, in Bolivia, the lithium mines, where all this magical electric technology we have in this country comes from is a U.S.-backed coup keeping the prices low in Bolivia of lithium. Large majority of our lithium comes from there, and the people of that country don't have access to that the money that's made from those mines because U.S. companies quote unquote own that property. How is that right? Why do the people of Bolivia not own their own fucking lithium?
I'd have to know the specifics in that scenario about how the U.S. companies ended up getting the rights to that. I mean, these things are never just as easy as they tend to be made out, as kind of black and white, cut and dry as they're often portrayed. I don't know in that particular case, but this is kind of the point that I was making, is that you can always point to these extreme examples that everyone would agree are not going to work. But I'm just I was talking about the principle of property ownership in and of itself, because for every Amazon, American-owned Bolivian lithium mine or mine or whatever, there are going to be 1,000 people that had a little bit of property, did something with it, created a company, and guided that company how they saw fit, because they put up the money, they put up the work, they put up the risk, and built something, or didn't, and failed. And
right, they put up the money because they had the money. There's a lot of people that don't have the money.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. There's always going to be inequality in society.
But the reason they had the money is because they inherited that money. They didn't produce that money with their labor.
No, not necessarily. People that I know that have this is just me. People that I know that have started businesses didn't have a bunch of money to start off with. They took out a loan, or they leveraged their house, or they did this. I mean, that's my point. Is there's 1,000 people that went about getting capital the way that most people get capital, which is not by being some aristocrat and having a bunch of property that they can leverage or sell. Or
do any of them have companies with more than 50 employees now?
No.
Because if they do, they should give their employees a voting stake in the company. Because that's
so I'm definitely okay. I think kind of the system we have is on the right track for how I would see. I don't believe in. I don't think that having a purely worker-run company. I mean, unless the owners of the company decide that that's what they want to do. But at 50 employees, you start having a bunch of. I mean, they kind of are democratic restrictions put on them, and I mean, this is what regulations are. Okay, you have this many employees, you're now subject to this regulation. You're now subject to this. You have to do this. You have to do this, and it's a form of democratic control.
Right, but the problem with that approach is the capitalist class has way more political power than the working class. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We can't we can't enact the laws fast enough to keep any sort of equality. Inequality is growing at an exponential rate in this country. That's the problem.
But
the only solution to that, in my opinion, is to enforce a democratic system, because one is not going to produce itself naturally.
I don't know how you would enforce that democratic system.
You make it illegal to have a capitalist contract if your company has more than 50 employees. You have to give employees a voting stake at that point, because of the logistics of it, for one. And at that point, the exploitation is so great. The labor exploitation is so great, and the natural process leads to less and less democracy in the political system as well.
So then you have a bunch of manual laborers making decisions about the functions of the company that they don't have a damn clue about.
That's interesting. That's exactly the same thing the kings said in England, that the peasants aren't smart enough to govern. But
I mean, this is kind of what you have. This is the point I was going to make. We were talking earlier about the what was it in California?
Newsom, the recall election.
But what's the word for it? Well, they have them elections all the time, referendums. They have the referendum system out there. You have a bunch of people, and it just goes on a basic majority rules basis, and you have a bunch of people that don't really know. Government's a complex thing. A company is a complex thing. There's a lot of intricacies. There's a lot of giving.
Who better to run it than employees?
People that know how to run companies.
Oh, you're a worshiper of the ruling class, I see, Tony.
It's not even. I'm not even necessarily saying the CEO.
I'd like you to find me a steel mill worker who thinks that they can't run it better than the CEO. Give me a break.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I've worked at a lot of factories, and everybody on the floor.
That's democracy.
Everybody on the floor thinks that they can run it better. I would be surprised if many of them could.
I completely disagree. I think that's a really that's a monarchic point of view. In my opinion,
I see it just as a matter of what you study. What if you have spent time, if you went to college to learn business administration, if you have spent time running businesses, you're going to know more just by definition than somebody that has spent their time unloading boxes from a truck.
Right, that's a theory, but I don't know if that holds up. In practice,
and,
if workers had a democratic control, they would obviously want to be a part of that process, or not. They could.
I'm sure they would want to.
Right.
But no. So I was going to point out the California referendum system, and that if you let people that don't know about how to run government make all these votes on everything, well, then you have people like what's going on in California. Hey, we're going to give an extra so much to schools, and we're going to lower taxes, and then you just end up with a mess on your hands because you have people that don't know, and they hear things that sound good, and hey, let's do those things that sound good.
So it sounds like you're saying, is democracy the problem, or is education the problem? Is lack of education the problem? Both.
Also, there was this great quote. I can't remember who said it. It was somebody that lived. He was a former communist that lived somewhere in Eastern Europe.
Doesn't really narrow it down.
It does, yeah. It's an Eastern European communist. You know the one, right? Yeah, that one.
Zizek?
He said the problem with communism is that there's too many meetings.
That's a common talking point. Yeah.
I hear, but I hear that from you, and I don't know. I've thought about it a couple of times. Like, God, man, like I don't want to do that on the weekend.
I believe
that's kind of a side point.
Do you know who Mondragon is? The worker co-op in Spain, the real big one. It's like the world's biggest co-op ever.
Is that the one in the Basque region?
In Spain, I believe.
Yeah.
They work 4 days, and instead of having a 3-day weekend like most European employees, one of their days is meetings. Basically, they do a lot of voting on that day. And it's an opt-in process. Obviously, you don't have to participate, but the option's there, and it should be, in my opinion. It results in better outcomes in terms of employees are obviously better taken care of because they have a say in the outcomes. They make more. They're better treated.
I mean,
the employees feel like they're part of something.
I have no doubt that their feelings aren't hurt and that they get paid well. My concern would be what their competitiveness would be against other companies in that sort of scenario.
Right.
I'm sure that they would give themselves great wages,
I
benefit
think they would be
packages,
more
everything else.
competitive or less competitive compared to
I think that
capitalists?
I think that on average, companies run like that are going to be much less competitive.
Is that a
I am
problem?
sure that, huh?
Is that a problem?
It's only a problem if the company's losing money. I mean, they can be less competitive if they're making less of a profit than other companies. That's fine, and they can still function and everything like that. But I would guess that
There's research on these questions that you're asking.
I'm sure there is,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that there's plenty of examples where it's worked out stunningly, and then we don't know about the
Well,
ones
these are
that they
typically
tried
not
and didn't work.
supported by governments. So, like I said, Mondragon's the biggest one we've really ever had. But if there were government programs to subsidize these worker co-ops, it'd be a lot more prevalent. But the problem is these loans are given to the capitalist class. They're not really given to worker co-ops.
Okay, I mean, then they get into being subsidized. I mean, I would like to get rid of a lot
Well, you
of
said loans,
private
right?
subsidies.
Private citizens can get a loan and start a business. Why can't a worker co-op?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I was under the assumption that you were saying that they would get, like, the company gets subsidizations to operate in that fashion.
No, I would recommend.
Maybe I was
I would
mishearing
recommend business loans for co-ops, prioritized.
you. Yeah, of course.
And actually, I don't know who was proposing this, but maybe it was Bernie, but I'm not sure. Any company that goes out of business the option should be given for government loans to turn that company into a worker co-op.
Sure. Yeah, government loans, startup loans to get things going. I'm absolutely in favor of that.
All of our banks would be co-ops at this point if that were, you know what I mean? They've all basically failed. 2008.
Yeah. And yes, they should have been nationalized. And it's something that needs to be done to prop the economy up.
I'm going to clip that. I'm
Nationalize.
going to clip that. They should have been nationalized.
Should have been nationalized. Have a king and just be one of the king's men.
As long as he's the
Take care of it.
smartest
It's
guy
out.
in the country, it should work fine.
I think so.
I'll see you guys next week.
It's
Oh, you
exciting.
get to vote again. Nice.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
I mean, it doesn't matter in Kentucky, but... Oh, you want to...